Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudire nashtaprayesu avadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama sloke bhaktire bhavati naistike mukhaṁ karati vācālaṁ pangulam gayate girim yatkripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dīnataranam Sri Paramananda Madhavam. So today we are reading from Bhagavad-Gita, chapter 2, text 21. Contents of the Gita summarized. Vedāvināśinaṁ nityam enam ajam katham sa puruṣaḥ Pārtha ghātayati hanti vedāvināśinaṁ nityam enam ajam avyayam katham sa puruṣaḥ Pārtha ghātayati hanti vedāvināśinaṁ nityam enam ajam avyayam katham sa puruṣaḥ Pārtha ghātayati hanti Veda knows avināśinam, indestructible, nityam, always existing, one who, enam, this soul, ajam, unborn, avyayam, immutable, katham, how, saha, that, puruṣaḥ, person, Pārtha, O Pārtha, come, whom, ghātayati, causes to hurt, hanti, kills, come, whom. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. O Pārtha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Purport. Everything has its proper utility, and a man who is situated in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply a thing for its proper utility. Similarly, violence also has its utility, and how to apply violence rests with the person in knowledge. Although the justice of the peace awards capital punishment to a person condemned for murder, the justice of peace cannot be blamed, because he orders violence to another person according to the course of justice. In Manu-saṁhitā, the law book for mankind, it is supported that a murderer should be condemned to death, so that in his next life he will not have to suffer for the great sin he has committed. Therefore, the king's punishment of hanging a murderer is actually beneficial. Similarly, when Kṛṣṇa orders fighting, it must be concluded that violence is for supreme justice. And thus, Arjuna should follow the instruction, knowing well that such violence committed in the act of fighting for Kṛṣṇa is not violence at all, because at any rate the man, or rather the soul, cannot be killed. So for the administration of justice, so-called violence is permitted. A surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient, but to cure him. Therefore, the fighting to be executed by Arjuna at the instruction of Kṛṣṇa is with full knowledge, so there is no possibility of sinful reaction. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayan Dadati Swapadāntikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sritapadakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavansya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Nityam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Shri Radha Kṛṣṇa Pada Sagana Lalita Shri Visakha Nityam. He Kṛṣṇa Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishavanasute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhuveva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Namo Mahavadanaya Kṛṣṇa Prema Pradayate Kṛṣṇāya Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Namne Gaura Krishna. Jai Shri Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here in this verse of Bhagavad-Gita, Lord Kṛṣṇa gives knowledge to Arjuna about the soul, which is indestructible and unborn and eternal. And at the same time, the soul cannot be killed, because this was the Arjuna's dilemma. Arjuna was thinking that how can he would kill his grandfather Bhishma, his teacher Dronacharya, and all his kinsmen for his selfish motive. That's why Arjuna has already declined to fight, thinking that sin will be incurred and he will be responsible for the destruction of the Kuru dynasty. So, Lord Kṛṣṇa, who is the protector of dharma, religion, and Lord Kṛṣṇa has descended in this material world to protect his devotees and at the same time protect dharma, the religious principles, and destroy the persons who are against the devotees, means demons, or those who are against the religious principles. So that was the purpose of Krishna's advent in this material world. And Lord Kṛṣṇa is trying to establish religion, religious principles in this material world, specifically in this planet, by establishing Maharaj Yudhishthir as the emperor of the whole world. Because when the emperor is a pious person, religious person, and he is cognizant of religious principles, then naturally the subjects in his kingdom would follow the emperor. Yad yad acharati shrestha tattat eve taro janaha. Whatever a big man does, then the common man, they follow him. So here, this was Krishna's plan to establish Maharaj Yudhishthira as the emperor of the whole world, and for that purpose this fighting was necessary. Though seemingly this fight was between two parties of the same lineage, but actually it was a fight between dharma and adharma, between religious principles and irreligious principles. And religious principles has to be established. That was Krishna's purpose. Otherwise, irreligion will prevail and everyone will become irreligious. Then Krishna's adventing in this material world, the purpose of adventing in the material world will not be fulfilled. So it was necessary that the fight should take place, as all other alternatives were exhausted. Kṛṣṇa himself, he went as a peacemaker. He went to the Kaurava court taking the message of peace, and he was trying to convince Duryodhana to just give 5 villages, if not the entire kingdom. At least the Kaurava, Pandavas would be satisfied with 5 villages. But due to the false ego of Duryodhana, he was not even ready to spare an inch of land in favor of the Pandavas. He was so egoistic, because irreligious persons generally they are very egoistic. And further, to satisfy their false ego, they cause destruction in different ways. So Kṛṣṇa wanted to stop this and wanted to establish religious principles. Sometimes people accuse that Kṛṣṇa was actually instructing Arjuna to become violent and cause destruction, which was not very good in part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So sometimes people accuse Kṛṣṇa. Even Dhritarashtra, who was hearing the reports of Kurukshetra through Sanjaya, because Sanjaya had this benediction from Vyasadeva that by sitting in one place he could just meditate and see the entire scene, what was happening in Kurukshetra. So when Dhritarashtra heard that Arjuna was refusing to fight in the beginning of the war, because already the counsels of the great warriors were blown from both the sides. That means that was signaling the beginning of the fight. But at that moment, that was a very crucial moment, all the warriors, they were holding their bow and arrows, preparing for fight. But at that time, Arjuna became bewildered. And he refused to fight. He threw away his bow and sat down on the chariot, and his body was trembling, he was nervous. And he was thinking, how can I fight with my guru, with my grandfather, with my kinsman? So when Dhritarashtra heard this, then he thought, oh, Arjuna was a very nice man. he is reluctant to fight. So that means my sons would, without fighting, they would get back their kingdom. But then, when Sanjay described that how Kṛṣṇa was insisting Arjuna to fight, then Dhritarashtra was very upset with Kṛṣṇa. He said, this Kṛṣṇa, Arjuna was such a nice person, gentleman, he was reluctant to fight, and this Kṛṣṇa is inciting him to fight. So he became very upset with Kṛṣṇa. But he did not understand the mission of Kṛṣṇa. That violence is sometimes necessary. Though Gandhi preached non-violence. But sometimes people think that the Britishers left India because of the non-violence movement of Gandhiji. But that was not true. They were scared when Subhash Chandra Bose went out and wanted to take help of other nations to attack the Britishers. They were alarmed. And there was a mutiny in Indian army. So they were alarmed, not by non-violence. So sometimes violence was necessary to keep up the religious principles, keep up dharma, establish justice. That's why Srila Prabhupada gives this example in the Purport, that sometimes violence is necessary to keep everything in order. Sometimes we see that in courts, the justice, he pronounces the judgment by giving death sentence to the murderer. So, in this case, no one can blame the justice. Because justice was doing his duty to maintain justice in the kingdom. A murderer was supposed to be killed. So this is the punishment for a murderer. If someone is taking the life of someone, then he is supposed to, his life is supposed to be taken. And that type of punishment, though externally seems very heavy, sometimes people think that, oh, this poor man, some or other, out of ignorance, he killed this person, but this justice, he is a knowledgeable person, so how could he give this capital punishment to him? So this justice is not doing proper thing. Sometimes people would blame the justice, but justice could not be blamed. Because according to Manu-saṁhitā, it has been stated that if someone kills someone, then the penalty for his killing is that he should be killed. And if he does not get that penalty in this material world, while living in this material world, then he would get that same penalty after death in the court of Yamaraj. Yamaraj would give that punishment he would get in next life. So that punishment would be there. No one can avoid punishment. Sometimes people think, oh, I killed such and such person and there was no witness. So no one knew this. So no one could blame me, so I will not get any punishment. But that person is in illusion. That even if someone in this material world sees the culprit or may not see the culprit, but the Supreme Lord who is sitting within the heart of all living entities, he is always watching. He is always watching the living entities, sitting as Paramatma within the heart. So when a living entity thinks to do something, the Super Soul already knows. And when he does something, the Supreme Lord becomes the witness of his sinful activity. So that's why we cannot avoid punishment in this material world by committing sinful activities, thinking that no one had seen this. The Supreme Lord is always watching. It has been described that there are two birds sitting in one tree, and one bird is eating the fruits of the tree, another bird is just watching. So that is the condition of the living entity and Paramatma within our heart. The bird, the soul, is eating the fruits of one's actions through the body. And the super soul, the other bird, he was just watching. That's why the super soul is called Upadrashta Anumanta. The super soul, Upadrashta, he sees the activities of the living entities. And Anumanta, he permits to do that sinful activity. So sometimes people also blame the super soul that why did he permit to do sinful activity? So the super soul, before a person thinks and he goes to do some sinful activity, the super soul reminds him that this is not very good, you don't do this. That's why we say sometimes, oh, my conscience was not allowing me to do this, but I did it. So that conscience, what is that conscience? that means super soul was instructing us, oh, this was not very good, don't do. But because we are attached to enjoyment and we have propensity to commit sinful activities for our own enjoyment, so we don't listen to the advice of the super soul. So then super soul says, okay, I warned you, you did not listen to me. So now I am allowing you to do this, but you will get the result of that sinful activity. I am not responsible. So that means the super soul is already giving us the knowledge not to do that. But we are not listening to the super soul because of our addiction to material enjoyments through sinful activity. That's why super soul could not be blamed for this allowing a person to do the sinful activity. So the living entity is solely responsible for his own action. No one else is responsible for one's action. Sometimes also people think, oh, I am such a nice man, I have not done any sinful activity, why the Supreme Lord is punishing me? But no one is nice. We are all getting the reaction of our own sinful actions, either in this life or previous life or for many, many lifetimes, previous lifetimes. So everything, every action has its reaction. So here we see that people who blame that while Lord Kṛṣṇa was inciting violence, so Prabhupada is telling that the Lord was inciting violence for the purpose of justice, for the purpose of establishing religious principles. Because the party of Duryodhana, they were all in the side of irreligion. It has been stated that Duryodhana was actually incarnation of Kali. He was Kali personified, incarnation of Kali. So he was actually doing the work on Kali's behalf, punishing the good-hearted Pandavas in so many ways because he was envious of them. And because of his envy, he went to such an extent that the Pandavas, they had to suffer in so many ways. They were driven out from their kingdom, their wife was disrobed in the assembly. So many things. They had to wander in the forest. So Kṛṣṇa wanted to establish religion, that's why it was necessary to establish Yudhishthira Maharaj in the throne as emperor of the entire world, by which Yudhishthira Maharaj would spread religious principles in his kingdom. That's why this violence was necessary. The violence of fighting in the Kurukshetra war was necessary, that Kṛṣṇa instructed to Arjuna. So Kṛṣṇa could not be blamed. So here, that's why Kṛṣṇa, when Arjuna was reluctant to fight with his grandfather and with his teacher and kinsman, the Kṛṣṇa was initially trying to explain to Arjuna that how the body is different from the soul, because it is a general misconception in the material world that we are this body and we have no idea of the soul. That's why the teaching of Bhagavad-Gita starts from this that we are not this body, we are the spirit soul, and the spirit soul is indestructible. It cannot be destroyed by any weapon, by any fire, by any other means. And this is spirit soul is also unborn. It does not take birth. The body takes birth, but the soul does not take birth. And the spirit soul is also avyayam, immutable. So it cannot be destroyed, it does not take birth, and it is eternal. That's in Bhagavad-Gita also Kṛṣṇa speaks that Manu-saṁhitā loke jiva bhuta sanatana. This living entity is my eternal part and parcel. So Kṛṣṇa is supreme eternal and supreme conscious being. As part and parcel, the spirit soul is also conscious and also eternal. So it cannot be destroyed. And the spirit soul accepts the body one life after another. It changes the body. So we are actually the spirit soul and the body is changed. After death, we get another body. So Kṛṣṇa speaks to Arjuna that katham ghātayati hanti. So when the body is killed, soul is not killed. The soul remains. Like when a person dies, we see his dead body lying in front of us. But we say, oh, that person is gone. But throughout our life, we have thought that this person with this type of body is this person. But when he dies and the body lies in front of us, but we say, oh, that person is gone. That means we are actually admitting indirectly that that person who is gone was not this body. Everyone is admitting that indirectly, though they don't know what is soul or what is the soul situation. But we are admitting that that person is gone. That means we are thinking that person was not this body, he was different. And he was the spirit soul. So Kṛṣṇa says to Arjuna that if we are the spirit soul, not this body, when body is killed or body is lost, the person is not lost or the person is not killed. That person is going to take another body in another life. So this attachment in the material world, and why this thing arise, why Arjuna became confused? Because of his attachment to the body of the grandfather and his teacher and kinsman. So in this material world, we are all attached to the body of our relatives. We are not attached to the soul. We are attached to the body of the relatives. So when the body is killed or the person is dead, then we cry. And when this person with the body is alive, present with us, we laugh. So we are confused actually. We have no knowledge that this person is the spirit soul, has attained this body in this lifetime and has become my relative. But in previous lifetime, the same spirit soul was in a different body and he was not my relative. And when this body will be dead, in next lifetime, the same spirit soul will accept another body who will not be my relative. So that means who is our relative and what type of attachment we have. That's it has been stated that those who are in knowledge, they neither feel sorry for the dead, nor feel happy for the living. So this knowledge is very important. Because of ignorance, we are carried away by sorrow and pleasure, time to time. But when we will be in knowledge by Krishna's grace, then we will not be affected. If our near and dear one leaves his body, we will not be affected. Or if he is with us, we will not be affected, we will not be very happy. We know that this body is temporary, and one day it is going to lose. That's why Krishna, when he is speaking to Arjuna, he is actually giving this knowledge to whole mankind. That let whole mankind know that they are not these bodies, they are the spirit souls and part and parcel of mind. That's why in ignorance only we cry or feel sorry and try to make the arrangement how we will get out from this worldly sorrow. But it is not possible. Krishna has made this material world as dukkhalayam asasvatam. This is a place of misery, and this is anitya. This is subject to destruction. So no one can become happy here unless until one is connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So here we see Therefore, the fighting to be executed by Arjuna at the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge. So there is no possibility of sinful reaction. So Krishna actually defeating Arjuna's all arguments, one after another. When Arjuna was reluctant to kill, he said, you cannot kill. The spirit soul cannot be killed. When Arjuna said, if I will kill my elders, I will incur sinful activity, Krishna said, no, there will be no sin. Because here it says that if you work with full knowledge. So here Arjuna's benefit was that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is personally instructing Arjuna. So there was no doubt about sinful action or sinful reaction, because Krishna was himself instructing Arjuna. And to follow Krishna's instruction is actually the rightful way to follow Krishna's order. So this knowledge will actually relieve Arjuna from his ignorance or confusement. So in that way, Krishna is now telling that this violence is actually meant for the peace of the whole world. So sometimes for the peace of the whole world, violence is necessary. But that has to be decided through knowledge. When it is necessary, when it is not necessary. Sometimes people become violent to satisfy their false ego, so that is not necessary. But if it is meant for the benefit of the whole world, to re-establish the religious principles, then violence is required. And Krishna was instructing Arjuna, and Arjuna, by following Krishna's instruction, he will be free from all sinful reactions. That's why when we follow Krishna's instruction or the scriptural injunctions with knowledge, then naturally we will be free from all sinful reactions. Hare Krishna. Any questions, comments?
So there is one case study in Allahabad. This is somewhere Purport he speaks. There were two brothers, they are farmers, they had a fight. So one killed another. So the other was taken by police to the court and Chief Justice says he is to be hanged. The mother, what she said, if you hang, already one dead, you are killing my other son. So how am I going to survive? So how to understand this?
This is a personal consideration.
Personal consideration.
This is not judgment. Mother is arguing for her personal benefit, not for the benefit of the person who was killed. Prabhupada also states in the purport that actually the judge, when he is giving capital punishment to the murderer, he is actually benefiting that murderer, because the reaction of that killing is to get capital punishment, whether in this life or in next. So the judge is relieving him by giving capital punishment in this life.
What she said, if you hang him, I'll die. I mean, she will be, nobody will take care of her. Like.
This is an emotional thing, and this is a personal thing. And this is not judged according to the religious principles. That his mother will be sorry, or there will be no one to take care of, so he should be released. He has committed mistake, he has committed murder, this reaction is he is to be murdered. And this is personal consideration for thinking about the mother.
Nowadays in medical science, like many people, they are having terminal cancer and they are suffering a lot. So there is one terminology called euthanasia. Means if someone wants to die, means he tells doctor, please kill me. I can't bear this suffering. So now how to understand if the family agrees, if the patient agrees, if the doctor gives him poisonous injection. So how this case is to be considered? Is it violence or mercy or what?
Prabhupada gives another example. Like the doctor operates. Prabhupada gives the example.
This euthanasia is somebody is having a terminal cancer, so he can't bear the suffering, so he wants to die.
Mercy killing.
Mercy, no, it is not a mercy killing.
They call it
mercy.
They call it mercy killing.
That hospital has to take permission from authority actually.
Yes.
Veda authority, they cannot going to inject the poisonous injection actually.
Yeah.
So that person
If
in
that
one
is
sense
a-
is suffering for his karma in one sense.
Yes.
How to understand this thing? So the doctor will get that this thing karma for killing him.
No, if doctor has to follow the law of the land. Doctor cannot do of his own, because the patient is asking. Like sometimes even without going to the hospital, sometimes the patient in the home, he suffers so much, he says to family members, please kill me. But whether the family members would kill him or take him to hospital. So in hospital also, the doctor has no choice. He has to, like he said, that he has to get permission from the authority. That means they have to follow the law of the land. And the law of the...
Formalities are completed actually.
Eh?
All the formalities are
Yes.
completed actually.
And it does not, a person is not permitted in every country also. Different countries have different laws. So whatever it may be, but the thing is that if we are suffering, that is naturally for our karma. And we have to complete that suffering. Otherwise, that karma will be left behind and sometimes in future will suffer.
So nowadays in medical science, like people they sign before, if I die by accident, my organs can be taken away and all. So the person, if supposing somebody dies in a whatever accident, so if the organs are taken and he's like buried, whatever it is, but because the body is not complete, so how to understand he will get higher elevation or whatever it is?
Whether he will get a higher elevation or lower elevation, that depends upon his karma. It does not depend upon the body, whether the parts are taken out or not.
This law has been passed actually for donating the organ side.
Yeah?
Laws have been passed for donating the organ side first.
That is his choice, whether he wants to give his different organs for the benefit of others. That is his choice. But if the body is not complete, that does not make any sense that his karmic reactions will be changed. It has nothing to do with the body. It has to do with karma. Okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. See, when we see there is a happy family consisting of the children, wife and parents actually, but there is untimely death by a person actually, head of the family, who is a earning member actually. In that case, the rest of the members suffers actually because of economical problem actually. So is it a reactions of the past action actually? What is that actually?
What happened? The person is
I mean
earning.
to say there is a family. There is a happy family.
Okay.
Children they are there,
Yeah.
parents are there, he is an earning member. But that earning member, there is an untimely death actually.
What is that?
Untimely death.
Untimely death. Okay.
Untimely death.
Oh, okay.
In that case, the whole family suffers actually.
Yes.
So that is the reaction of the past work of the individual, all the members actually.
Yeah, they have some karmic reaction and they have been united in a family to suffer. Okay. So they suffer simultaneously. They have some karmic reactions.
So that means they are getting punishment of the last.
Yes, yes.
Last part.
Yes. Nothing happens without karmic reaction.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And there is no untimely death actually. Every death is timely.
Everything is predetermined. At the time of birth, death is written when you are going to die.
Untimely means actually he has
Yeah. We are expecting. We are expecting. We are expecting that he will live for 100 years, but then he lives at 50. Then we say it untimely death. But it does not make any difference whatever we say. This is all due to karma. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Bhagavad-Gita ki Jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Nityam Gaur Premanande.